Welcome to the NBA Fast Break podcast. I am your host from Sacramento, California, guard 6'1", Andy Fletcher. On the schedule today, we're going to be discussing the NBA games of the day. Evan Mobley had a minor injury. We're going to see how much it affects the Cleveland Cavaliers. Good young talent. Stephen A. made a list on which players deserve a statue when they're most likely retired. So anyway, let's get started, huh? So NBA games of the day. We have Magic versus the Wizards at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Well, as we analyze that game, Magic are a much better team this year. They're kind of like the Cinderella story, like the Sacramento Kings were last year, and also Oklahoma City Thunder last year. They have a legitimate star in Paolo Banchero. They have a nice number 2 option in Franz Wagner, and they're pretty deep. So I like their chances against the Wizards. I say the Magic will win by 15 or so, and they can compete for a playoff spot. Wizards, they're the second worst team in the Eastern Conference, so I don't really see them competing here. At 4:30, we have Hawks versus Cavaliers. Now, as I mentioned before, Evan Mobley sustained a minor injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but he is the team's third best player. So without him, I do think it's going to affect them quite a bit. I think they're going to win because they are one of the more hot teams in the league the last month or so. But I think it'll be very, very close due to Evan Mobley not playing and Donovan Mitchell, who just missed a couple games. So I say Cleveland by 5, give or take. And they're a top 3 team in the East, while the Hawks are struggling to make the play-in. And then at 4:30 as well, we have the Memphis Grizzlies versus the 76ers. Now, 76ers are still missing Joel Embiid, but you're playing the Grizzlies who don't have John Morant, they traded away Steven Adams. Brandon Clark's out. So I really expect the 76ers to win. They've been playing pretty well as of late, and they play hard. I talked about Nick Nurse in my last episode. He's just a great coach, and he gets the most out of them, kind of the way Tom Thibodeau gets out of the Knicks. They play hard, and they're just a good team. They're good defensive team. They get to the rim. They have good length, good athleticism. So I see the 76ers at home winning by around 12 to 15 or so. At 4:30 as well, we have the Clippers and the Rockets. Clippers for sure, I believe, will take this game. Kawhi Leonard's been on an absolute heater. Harden's been playing well, scoring 20 in multiple games lately. I just think they have too much firepower. I do think they miss Russell Westbrook and his constant professionalism and energy off the bench, but they do have as much firepower really as anyone in the league, and I do expect them to beat the Rockets tonight. Probably in the score range of about 115 to 105. 6 o'clock now, we have the Bulls at the Jazz. So Bulls, they had an impressive win against Sacramento, down 22 and came back to win. So they're riding on a little bit of momentum. DeMar DeRozan and Kobe White are really playing well. Utah Jazz have a lot of young talent. Keontae George is a solid rising young talent. You have the guard from who was traded from the Cavaliers, who's playing pretty well. What's that guy's name? The guy with the afro. I'm gonna have to get back to him, but obviously, they're a pretty deep team. John Collins playing pretty well. So I think I think they're going to win this game at home, well coached by Will Hardy. So yeah, I think they'll win by 8 to 10 or so. Bucks Warriors, 7 p.m. Warriors seem to be at full strength. Draymond's come back. Clay's playing, but he's coming off the bench, and he seems to be doing pretty well in that role as a microwave type of guy. We'll see if Steph can bounce back from the horrendous game that he had in Boston. I mean, oh boy, that was awful. He needs a bounce back game. Bucks, they've been playing well. Giannis was just out, and they had an impressive win over the Clippers with Bobby Portis and Dame playing really well. So we'll see if they can carry that momentum. They've been ultra hot since the All-Star break. Ultra hot. So good for them. At 7 p.m. as well, we have Thunder at Trailblazers. Trailblazers, let me tell you, they have as much young talent as anyone in the league. I call them the triple-headed S monster. So you got Shaedon Sharpe, who's been hurt lately, but it's not going to be hurt for long. It's just a temporary injury. You got Shaedon Sharpe, you got Scoot Henderson, and then you have Anthony Simons. You got three really good young talents, that arguably could be your 1, 2, and 3 for the next 5 to 8 years. I mean, just a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism, shot making. They signed Jeremy Grant to a huge contract, 5 years, $160 million. I mean, we're talking about $32 million a year. That's controversial. Jeremy Grant's had a good year, but I think that's a horrible contract. Kind of like the Tobias Harris contract a couple of years ago, where he was getting $39 million a year. For a non-All-Star, I can't pay somebody $32 million a year. I just can't, especially a guy who's going on 30. Okay, he's not a spring chicken at 22, 24. No, he's going to be 30. But they do have talent nonetheless. So they're going to give a Thunder, I think, a run for their money tonight. I still think Thunder will win because they're one of the best teams in the West, period. I mean, they have an MVP candidate in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They're well coached. And obviously Chet Holmgren, he's a hell of a two-way talent. I don't think anyone really expected him to be this well coming off a big injury last year. And Jalen Williams continues to impress. And, they're going to be good for a long time. And they got a lot of picks coming in. They're very young. They're the youngest team in the league, I believe. So they're not going anywhere. I'll tell you that right now. And then at 7:30 to cap the night is the Sacramento Kings at the Los Angeles Lakers. This is going to be a tough game. You have LeBron and Anthony Davis. What can I say? Not my most favorite duo for sure, but definitely talented, long, and athletic. And the Kings seem to struggle with length and athleticism. And we'll see what they can do. But on the Kings side, they have arguably the most athletic point guard in the league. Great fourth quarter player. They have a 6th Man of the Year candidate in Malik Monk. Keegan Murray is transforming into one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. And then you have a low post star in Sabonis. So, it's pretty even as far as talent is concerned. But I think the Kings will win this one 120 to 115. So Evan Mobley, like I said, is that's too bad that he got injured. He's playing pretty well. Obviously, a 7-footer that can shoot threes. When he came in the league, he kind of reminded me of Chris Bosh. By the way, Evan Mobley from the USC. Just the way he can stretch the floor and block shots, and handle the ball. Just a super skilled big. Fits their team to a T. They need that length and everything. Besides having, Garland, Mitchell, Strus, and Okoro. So, you need a guy who can put some balance in the lineup and, score in the paint and everything. So hopefully they get that young man back because he's a real young talent. I also wanted to touch on Stephen A. Now, Stephen A. obviously is controversial with a lot of things. I agree with him on some things I do not. He made a list of players that deserve a statue from their franchise when they retire. So I've made my list of 5 that should be getting a statue by the time they retire. Okay? And we're going to go from least deserving to get a statue to most. As in they all deserve it, but we're going to go from the most deserving of it being number 1. Okay? Number 5, I have Nikola Jokic. Okay? This guy's already a 6-time All-Star, 2-time MVP. He's only played for the Denver Nuggets. He hasn't bounced around. He's been loyal to the franchise. Obviously, very unique big. I don't think we need to go into it much longer. Everybody knows the talent and the all-around player that Nikola Jokic is. Great teammate as well. You know, doesn't care about stats and all that. He's unselfish, and he knows how to win. So, and due to that, and they won the championship last year, and he's the Finals MVP. You got to get Nikola Jokic a statue. You just have to. Number 4 is going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay? This guy has been a dominant force in the league since 2017. He was drafted in 2013. He had a few years developing, getting stronger. He came into the league at 6'9", 215, okay? And he ended up, as of right now, being about 6'11", 255. So he's put as much work into the game as anyone ever. He's gotten stronger. He's developed his post game. He's developed his shot blocking, especially on the interior. And he's developed handling the ball, you know, like being like a point forward or a point center where he can just take the ball down, initiate offense. I mean, other than shooting too many threes once in a while, that's the only weakness I see for Giannis. And I think he's the best big to play since Shaquille O'Neal, in my opinion. Tim Duncan's right up there, but he reminds me of a Orlando Magic Shaquille O'Neal because that's when Shaq was, you know, a little thinner and, you know, still really strong, really dominant. And that's what I see with Giannis. Now, they won the championship in 2021. Obviously a 2-time MVP, just like Nikola Jokic. Giannis needs to get his jersey retired, 100%. Number 3, Jimmy Butler for the Miami Heat. Now, I know Jimmy has not won a championship for the Miami Heat. But I'm telling you, this guy plays so hard. He has 2 switches. He has his standard play during the year where he's a 20-point a game lockdown defender, and then he goes into superstar mode when the playoffs start. And I'm telling you, no one wants to play the Heat. If they have a pulse and they have some brain cells, okay, they don't want to play the Heat in the playoffs. The Heat know how to win. They play with a system, Heat culture. Everyone goes into that team. They're in shape. They play hard. They play a strong zone. They're a well-oiled machine like the San Antonio Spurs were 10 to 15 years ago. You know, you don't want to see them in the playoffs. Bam Adebayo is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. They got Terry Rozier at the deadline. Tyler Hero's been kind of inconsistent as far as injuries and all that, but when he plays, he can really score. So this team, I wouldn't want to see them if I were you. If I was another team in the East who's lined up to play them, give or take a Milwaukee or New York or a Cleveland, oh, good luck. You're going to have your hands full. Okay, and they've been there every single year towards the end. Jimmy Butler's taken them to a couple NBA Finals, basically single-handedly in one of those years. So, yes, I think that Jimmy Butler deserves a statue for the Miami Heat. Number 2, I have Jalen Brunson for the New York Knicks. In my opinion, so far, we'll see where they end up when this season is over in the playoff race, how far they get to the playoffs. In my opinion, That is the biggest free agent signing, where it's not joining a super team, a la LeBron James to Miami, back to Cleveland. The list goes on now ever since that happened with LeBron. But anyway, back to Brunson. Let me get him his flowers. I haven't seen a bigger jump from a player signing with a new team in NBA history. I mean, this guy, he was a second-round pick for the Dallas Mavericks, I believe in the Luka Doncic draft, which was 2018. He got better year over year. He was kind of the second option between him and Spencer Dinwiddie, right? And then he went to the Knicks. Knicks saw something in him, and they signed him. And, boy, has their team been night and day since Brunson went there. I mean, night and day. I do believe they're championship contenders. OG Anunoby was a huge move, huge signing. Just Julius Randle's having a good year. Too bad he dislocated his shoulder because he was averaging 24 points a game. All right? So this team's going to be good for a long time. I understand they haven't won a championship, but that's who I think needs to be retired. He's put them on the map. Before they were not relevant, and now they're a contender in the East. So, yes, I do think that Jalen Brunson's jersey needs to be retired. Number 1, Stephen Curry for the Golden State Warriors. I mean, everybody saw that coming, right? I mean, 4-time NBA champion, former MVP, obviously. Best three-point shooter in NBA history. What more can I say? The Golden State Warriors, a decade ago, they weren't that successful prior to Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson really put them on the map. Doesn't get enough credit for what he's done. And then, they decided to hire Steve Kerr. And then the players were, the team was a lot more talented by the time he got there. And obviously, like I said, 4 rings. Now, Steph has gotten to play. He's been fortunate to play with some great players. Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and then Draymond as a defender and as a role player. They've had a very talented team, but just Steph, such a unique talent, and I believe there'll never be a shooter as good as him ever again. So the 4-time NBA champion, I do believe, needs to have his statue retired. So to recap, okay, the 5 that I have, this is the updated order that I have on who needs to get their jersey retired. Number 5, Jalen Brunson for the Knicks. Number 4, Jimmy Butler for the Heat. Number 3, Nikola Jokic for the Denver Nuggets. Number 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Bucks. And number 1, Steph Curry for the Warriors. So the last thing I wanted to touch on was most improved players this year. I just watched the Sacramento Kings play the Bulls a couple nights ago, and I'll tell you, have you guys been watching Kobe White? Because Kobe White should deserve some consideration. That boy, he's athletic. He's a hell of a shooter. Pre-All-Star break, he was scoring 19 a game and over 40% from 3. He's really had to, pick up the reins now that Levine's been hurt. Just a really good young talent. And, man, if I was a team and he has a chance to, if he's a free agent, I'm picking him up in no time. Like, I would love to have Kobe White on my team as a rising star. So I have him as a most improved candidate. Another one of my candidates will be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, I know he was good last year, but this year he's an MVP candidate. What can I say? They've been second or third all year. He's averaging 31 points a game. You know what I mean? He's good in the fourth quarter. Excellent defender. I believe he was leading the league in steals and deflections. I mean, this guy's the real deal and real good mid-range shooter, good teammate. So those are my 2 so far. My third would be Tyrese Maxey. Now, Tyrese Maxey, let me tell you something. He's gotten a lot better, okay? last year he was averaging around 20 points a game, and now this year he's averaging 26. I mean, the guy's so much better. He's had to step in as the best player on the 76ers when Joel Embiid's been out all these games. He's taken the challenge. He's a really dynamic guard. So I believe he deserves some consideration. And then Jonathan Kuminga, okay? Now I try to watch all the teams in the league, okay? And this guy, had a slow first couple of years. He was dissatisfied with Steve Kerr playing him. He didn't get that much playing time as it was inconsistent, but this year he's gotten a role, and credit to him because he's been the second best player on the Warriors this year by far. He's really transformed his game, being able to put the ball on the deck and drive to the rim. We already know he was an incredible dunker, but just a better all-around scorer, a good mid-range shooter, and he's been a dynamic player for them, kind of like a Antoine Jameson, Jerome Kersey type of guy. Athletic, gets you around 20 a game, just really reliable. So I want to thank you for tuning in to my podcast, and we're going to keep this thing going. And if you have any questions, hit me up. All right, see you later.